Cowboy Bebop. Do you love it? Do you hate it? If you hate it, you should probably click off of this video right now and go reevaluate your life. I'm kidding. Kind of. Cowboy Bebop is one of the best anime of all time. I think so. A lot of people think so. It's number 33 on my anime list, which we all know is an infallible source of anime-based wisdom. But really, it is considered the anime for people who don't watch anime. So when I heard it was getting a live-action version, being made by Netflix, of course, I got kind of scared. I'm trying to be less negative as a person, and so I am cautiously optimistic about this live-action Cowboy Bebop. But I do like thinking about the things I like, as most normal people do, unless you're an avid Twitter user, in which case you probably only think about the things that you hate. Anyway, so I started thinking about what made Cowboy Bebop, like, good. You know, why do so many of us really love this show? And that's what this video is really about, kind of broadly. I'm going to break down what made Cowboy Bebop good, and then, at the end, try to say how this new show could do the same, or how it won't, or, you know, something like that. We'll see when we get there. Anyway, what makes Cowboy Bebop good? First off, pure presentation. Right out of the gate, at the beginning of the show, you're shown this sad scene, and then this fucking kicking intro. Then we are shown this retro futuristic spacefaring society that's still pretty much the same, if not worse, than our society is right now. This isn't really shoved in your face, as the show rarely plays with like high science fiction concepts, but it is a key part of the setting. Yet, within this setting, the show also manages to play with so many different feelings and approaches to this world. A Wild West-style approach to some episodes, a jazzy and noirish approach to others. Some episodes are literally just straight-up comedies, and others are just pure emotional gut punches that leave you saying, and that's our Full Metal Alchemist reference of the week, ladies and gentlemen. We've done it. I've always loved Cowboy Bebop's retro-futuristic technology and how representative it is of the time it was made. Like, so many of the settings in the show feel like they're from different periods in time, but also not. It literally feels like humanity in the 90s was just thrust into space and then just degraded horribly, just like we did in the real world. Then, there's the visuals, the animation, and the art design. I think Cowboy Bebop is an absolutely beautiful show that is just oozing with style. I'm not going to try to gush about it too much, but everything from the character designs to the backgrounds to just the little trinkets and items that people interact and play with, it all feels so well detailed and thought out. It feels real. A lot of this is thanks to the overall setting, but each place in the world also has its own unique vibe to it because of the art design. Each planet or space station they visit feels like a unique location with its own personality. It doesn't just feel like they're on planet A or planet B over and over again. You can kind of pick up when they're on Mars or when they're on Earth. Each planet feels unique unless it's meant not to make a point about the place that they're in. Two of my favorite planets are Callisto, which is actually a moon, and Venus, both of which are just like polar opposite when it comes to the design. This is because they want to represent different things about both of these places, and probably points they're trying to make within the episode. I also really like the Space Casino from Episode 3, with all its bright lights and colors and Vegas feel, and the amusement park from Episode 20, that contrasts really well with the terrifying main villain of the episode. They know when to go high budget, and they know when to keep it low-key. The fights are smooth, but punchy when they need to be. While the original Bebop definitely wasn't a non-stop thrill ride in every episode, the action was punchy, fantastical, and fun to watch when it was happening. Spike hands out kicks like a practiced artist flourishing a paintbrush, and the space dogfights can be incredibly fun and at times nail-biting to watch. It all looks so good, both just purely from a design standpoint, but also just how it moves. You get a good idea of what the action is like from the first episode alone, which has a couple of good fights as well as a space chase too. It's a great sampling of what the show will be. Not only that, but the characters are so well drawn and animated that you can just tell a lot by how they move. It's crazy. There's so much personality and mood expressed in just the way that Spike moves throughout an episode. And that's what animation should be, right? Basically, the animation is stellar, and also the show just looks fucking incredible. There's a reason that so many, like, aesthetic memes and blogs exist about Cowboy Bebop. This show is aesthetic as fuck, whatever that means. Of course, these visuals wouldn't be as well accentuated if Cowboy Bebop didn't have such an amazing soundtrack. I've become convinced that if a piece of media has a good enough soundtrack, it's probably just going to be good. Of course, that isn't a factual rule, just something I noticed. If the music is good, the show is elevated for me. Cowboy Bebop is representative of that idea. Now, Cowboy Bebop is a fantastic show without the music, but I will argue that the music is a big part of what makes Cowboy Bebop so good. The soundtrack has an incredibly heavy focus on different styles of jazz, but never lets itself be pinholed by this, dipping into other genres when necessary, from folk to country to the blues, and even a heavy metal song along the way. The soundtrack is just bursting with creativity and emotion. It would be incredibly hard for me to unwed my idea of what Cowboy Bebop is from this soundtrack. So many of the tracks, I think, perfectly embody the scenes that they play during, and I think it rarely comes off as heavy-handed. Literally, these songs are part of this show. I think this might be in part because of the relationship that Yoko Kanno and Shinichiro Watanabe had while making the show, apparently bouncing music and ideas for the show back and forth as they were creating. Kanno would make a piece of music that would inspire Watanabe, that would in turn inspire her to make more music. That's pretty cool, and I think it shows with how much the music and the show fit together like puzzle pieces. Here's a couple of my favorite moments where the soundtrack really improved the mood of the scene, or even just made the scene altogether. The first one is from episode 10, which is called Ganymede Elegy. I won't spoil the story of the episode, but the way the song Elm is used in the story is just so perfect. It fits the scene so well. You know what the characters are feeling as this scene is playing out. No words are even spoken, or even need to be spoken as it's happening. You just watch the scene and listen to the song, and you know everything that is being transmitted to you. It's perfect. And again, another moment from episode 20. This scene has absolutely no dialogue, just music and what you see, and that is all you need. Again, it works perfectly. Also, if you know what this song is called that plays during this moment, please tell me in the comments. I still don't know what it is, and I want to find it. I cannot find it on any of the Cowboy Bebop soundtracks. I honestly think that Cowboy Bebop has one of the best anime, if not just television show soundtracks of all time. I mean, most of the episodes are named after different styles of music or even songs, so you know that music is just incredibly important to the show. Each episode is called a session, for God's sake, like a session where you would go in and record music. Some of my personal favorite tracks are the aforementioned Elm, Green Bird, Space Lion, and Waltz for ZZ. Now, I love a lot of the soundtrack, but I can't just list all of the music I like from it, or we'd be here just for a bit longer than this video needs to be. Following the soundtrack, the sound design is fantastic as well. You don't hear much about the sound design unless it's bad, because if it does its job, then you just kind of don't notice it. So Bebop does good with its sound design. It does great with its sound design, because it just sounds like what you think it should sound like. So, yeah. Cowboy Bebop is a sound, like I already said, and you know what? It sounds like this. The casting is also basically perfect. I've never listened to the Japanese dub, but I have friends that tell me it's really good. For me, I always watch the English dub. It just feels like right to me. The voices, like every voice actor, is that character to me. The acting is so well done, the delivery, the smoothness, and everything of all the voices is fantastic. It's just a fucking chef's kiss of voice acting.
How much is this?
I see most of the characters as these voices, which is admittedly going to make it a bit harder with what we get in the live action show and me kind of feeling them out. But, you know, whatever.
Oh, I'm butchering it.
You know, there's also that rumor that the director thinks that the English dub is better than the Japanese dub, but I can't actually find a source for that. So, it's probably not true, but hey, I like the English dub, and you know, whichever one you like, I'm happy for you. It's a good show either way. And this leads me to last, and arguably one of the most important things that makes Cowboy Bebop what it is. The writing, the directing, the themes, the stories, and the characters that the show explores. Cowboy Bebop is an utterly, it's like close to perfection when it comes to a story being told in a TV show, at least in the way that it's told in this episodic, like each episode is its own story but builds a narrative as well type of show. And I would say that like 90% of the episodes are absolute fucking bangers. Like they're just really good. There is a miss every now and again, but when the show hits, it hits hard, and it rarely loses steam along the journey when it finally picks up. The director has been quoted as treating each episode like a short movie, and you can feel this focused approach all throughout the show. Every episode that isn't connected to the overarching plot is typically its own enclosed story that has a beginning, middle, and end, while still adding in important details that help the overall lore and understanding of the story and world. And to be fair, I'd say that a lot of the main plot episodes do the same thing as well. You can watch something like Jupiter Jazz and still see that it has a beginning and end. Yes, some of the details are a little muddled, but you'll still know what's going on. You know, you'll know, oh, this is the bad guy, this is the good guy, and this is an important character, and by the end, you'll still feel that emotional impact. That's how good the show is. You get so attached to our main characters as well. You really get to know them and understand them and feel like you're kind of along for the journey, this invisible person riding along the ship. You start to love Spike and Faye and Ed and Jet and all of their faults and all of the things that make them good. How they're good but incredibly flawed people who want to do good things. How our three older leads are like troubled by their past but keep pushing on, and how Ed is just so pure, and they are so well written. They don't often go against the character traits that are set for themselves, and when they do, the show gives you a good reason for it, like something from their past, or they want to do something good, because they're not bad people. These characters are good people who do bad things. Just look at Ed and Ein. Like, I can't even believe I forgot to mention Ein. Ein isn't featured much, but Ein is just, look at that little dog. Look at Ed, look at these things.
A dubious little creature getting up to mischief. This is no good.
It's hard for me to express the intricacies of Cowboy Bebop and its story without going into like a full-blown spoilery essay. Like a really long, just drawn out, just pounding it into you. That's what she said. Cowboy Bebop explores the ideas of things like mysticism. It explores the ideas of loss and grief and the unhealthy relationship we can have with our own troubled past. It explores what it's like to form this broken family of people who are like you as you try to operate through the equally broken world and your own trauma. Some of my favorite episodes are Jupiter Jazz Parts 1 and 2, Parole Le Fou, A Waltz for Venus, and of course the finale, but it's really hard to pick favorites with this show. This is just what I feel right now, but my favorite episodes when I first watched it were, I'm pretty sure, pretty different. Well, at least I know Waltz for Venus was still one of my favorites. I can tell you what my least favorite episodes are, but I might save that for another video. I feel like I could literally make like 10 to 20 videos on Cowboy Bebop and not run out of things to say. I come up with a new thing to say every time I watch it. Anyway, this video was originally meant to be kind of short, but it's hard to say everything I want to in short form. Basically, Cowboy Bebop was and is still what's known as lightning in a bottle. It was a gathering of incredibly talented people who wanted to try and create something new and amazing, and they did. And if it wasn't made right then, at that time, it might not have been made, and it might not be as good as it is. It would be incredibly difficult, really, for anyone to recreate the amazingness that is this show, unless they really, really, really tried and took their time with it and just were incredibly passionate about it. Personally, I don't think that the live-action show will do it. Nailing every aspect that I've covered today would be incredibly difficult.
Oh, I'm butchering it.
And this is why we don't often get shows like Cowboy Bebop. I'm going to watch the live-action show because I love the original. I'll just be honest about it. And I'm going to do my best to judge it on its own merits. But, as I said before, it has an incredible amount to live up to. It's literally based on one of the best anime of all time, one of arguably the best pieces of media of all time, and art. Now, having said that, I did do some research on the people who are working on it, and I wanted to kind of lay that out for you. The guy who is developing it, basically, from what I understand, the head of it, Andre Nemec, he did work on what is considered to be one of the best Mission Impossible movies, but also those bad CGI Ninja Turtle movies, and the upcoming, I kid you not, Beverly Hills Cop 4. If you're watching this, you might not even know what that is if you're a certain age. I didn't even know that was being made. I don't know why it needs to be made. The head writer, Christopher Yost, is a pretty prolific comic writer who's also worked on some big comic movies and a handful of comic-based cartoons. And then there's the episode directors, Alex Garcia Lopez and Michael Cattleman. Lopez has directed some episodes for shows that a lot of people consider really good, so I'm actually hopeful. Michael Cattleman, from what I saw, mostly did some okay procedural cop shows and a few things I'd never heard of. So, take that with as you will. And then there's also the casting, which I'm still very mixed on. I don't think the casting is bad, but I really need to see them in action. I don't know how well John Cho's going to be. I actually really like the actor for Jet quite a bit. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he actually seems to fit the character from what I've seen in the trailers. And Faye's actress seems fine, Probably one of the best things I've seen about the show is that they got Yoko Kanno back. That's going to be a fantastic addition to the show, and I hope she puts just as much love and heart and effort into the soundtrack as she did in the original. I don't know if she'll have the same relationship that she had with Shinichiro Watanabe, but I hope that she gives it her all, and I hope that the soundtrack is fantastic. But, to be honest, besides Kanno and Lopez, the credentials of a lot of the folks on the show don't give me much hope. But who knows? In the worst case, from what I foresee, it's going to be a bad CW-style show with a constant cutting during action scenes, bad camera work, and it's just going to be an overly pulpy, schlocky mess that might give us some laughs. On the good end, it probably won't be as good as the original Bebop, but it'll probably be fun and have some original ideas and maybe even, create some stories that will go, you know what, that was pretty good. That was pretty close to what I liked about the original, or something new that isn't just derivative of the original show. If they have a good enough director with good enough cinematography and writing, I think the show could be good or even great. But what it really needs is those little touches, those nods that someone behind the scenes really cared, that everyone behind the scenes cared, that helped make each character feel real, like a real person with emotions and a story, that made each place feel lived in and unique, that made the action feel over the top but fun to watch, that made the music feel like an extension of the world and the characters and the emotions that we're supposed to be feeling. We need that writing that left us feeling impacted, that left us crying or our hearts racing, that had us, by the end of the show, feeling like we would carry the weight of what we'd watched. Having said all that, are you excited for Cowboy Bebop live action? Do you want me to review it when it comes out? Do you want more Cowboy Bebop videos? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I've been working on this one for far too long, and I feel like I shouldn't have been because I'm just lazy. I'm lazy. P.S. I watched the trailer after I wrote this script, and it doesn't look that bad. Definitely seems a bit more lighthearted and a bit more schlocky than the anime, but we won't really know until we actually get it in our hands. We'll see when it finally comes out. See you guys next time, and thanks for watching GhostsOnHoliday.